All right, we're live. Hi, everyone. This is Ann Pillsbury, and you're watching Pivot on Purpose. I am an ICF certified coach who helps women pivot to careers of greater purpose and impact. And I have just launched this series, Pivot on Purpose, featuring women who have made a pivot to more fulfilling projects, work, life type of situations. And today I have Karyn Flynn, who is the creator and author of Holos, a curated newsletter of health and wellness, longevity, and purposeful living information and tips for women journeying through midlife. Hello, Karyn.
Hi, Ann. Hello, everybody.
How are you
Thanks for
today?
having me. I'm well. I'm great. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so now I'm going to read Karyn's bio so that you get a sense of her background, what she did before Holos, and because it kind of puts an interesting context between the two, I think, that I like to talk about. So prior to Holos, she was the CEO of the Bay Area Discovery Museum for 8.5 years, and additional experience included vice president at Goldman Sachs. She is currently a member of the Bright Day Foundation Advisory Board of Directors for the International Spy Museum. Karyn is also a mentor for veterans through American Corporate Partners and coaches nonprofit CEOs. And she's also served on boards of community organizations, including the Bay Area Discovery Museum, the Financial Women's Association, Heyday Books, the Mountain Play Association, and Marin Advocates for Children. And I don't know how you say that, Bachik Elementary Site Council?
Basic.
Okay. And she's been recognized as one of the most influential women in the Bay Area business by the San Francisco Business Times. So you have a lot of accolades and a lot of achievements.
Thank you. I've been around a long time.
Like simultaneously, I was like, and then it also kind of was like, wow, that's a lot. It's a lot for a woman to manage.
Fortunately, they've not all happened at the same time.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about your pivot story from leaving your job and then launching Holos.
Yeah. So I think actually I would say what I'm doing now, launching Holos, is one in a series of pivots. The first pivot being going from business school to staying home for almost 8 years, I have 3 kids, so raising 3 kids, and then pivoting from that to going and running a children's museum, which if you had asked me what were the top 100 things I could see myself doing in my life, that would not even been on the top 1,000 as even a possible career. Nothing against it, it just wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
And yet I would say what was instrumental about that role and what I'm doing now is having a job that was really about something bigger than myself. It was about serving the children and the community of the Bay Area and being in a mission-minded organization and a mission-driven organization. And that really resonated with me. And so when it came time for me to leave, we completed a massive capital campaign, and I'd been there for 8.5 years as CEO, plus 16 years as a user, as a parent. It was time for me to do something else. And I realized I wanted to do it in an area that was aligned with my personal passions, which are around health and wellness and longevity. And it coincided with me being in the middle of the middle age years and recognizing that women of our generation are thinking about this time very differently. And I would have friends come up and say, oh, what are you doing around perimenopause symptoms? Or how are you thinking about now that you've left the Discovery Museum? Are you just going to retire? Are you doing something else? And I kept thinking, I'm too young to retire. Mm-hmm. I don't want to retire. I'm still driven and I have ambitions. But I knew that I wanted to do something that enabled me to continue to give back. And that was really how Holos was born, as a way for me to take my interests and my passions and share that information and perspective with women to hopefully make their journeys through midlife smoother, easier, happier, more successful.
And do you see it do you notice that it's almost like a shift as we age, like around 40, we kind of go through that after having all those years of achieving and maybe even looking for success outside of ourselves, that there's that shift to having more meaning and purpose, more fulfillment from within?
I think that there is. I think that the external drivers and externally defined version of success, which is given to us by society, I think we get through that and it leaves you realizing that it doesn't always leave you feeling fulfilled, no matter how many rungs up the corporate ladder you've gone, or what title you might have, or how many deals you've done, that there's something that what we're all searching for is really coming from within. And it's being
Mhm.
able to sit quietly enough to start to identify, well, what would that look like? And I think that often it might look very different than the first half of your life. And the things that got you excited or motivated you in the beginning might be very different than the things that excite you and motivate you in the future. And the other thing I would add is I do think there's a huge component of serving others. And
Mhm.
research into happiness and longevity will tell you that the happiest people and the most fulfilled people as they age are those that have found a way to give back and are in service of others in some capacity.
Yeah. So we've talked about this before, but we have this opportunity now to really change the conversation around midlife. It's not our mother's midlife, right?
Wow.
And so, I mean, I'm noticing some exciting conversations happening. Are you finding those? I mean, with Holos, do you get interesting people responding back to you? Do you have a group in the San Francisco Bay Area of women, like-minded women who are trying to kind of change that narrative?
So I think that's what's been take me most by surprise, and I would say has been one of the most exciting aspects of starting Holos is becoming part of this whole community where I think it was like this broad-based awakening. I mean, you're right there with me, and that wow, we're potentially going to live another 40 years. Almost half of our lives are going to occur after 50. And you need to think about your life very different like then. There's not, it's not like you get to 50 and you coast downhill.
Right.
And so there are, whether it's around the health or the fitness or longevity or career, life after children, I think people are excited to have these conversations and to figure it out and to build a whole new roadmap. So it's a very exciting place to be. And when you look at even from the investment side, the amount of money being raised for female-led companies or companies investing in female-oriented products is growing exponentially. I think people are waking up that we are a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I went to this, and the fact that I think menopause is finally being talked about and
Yeah.
discussed. And I mean, I think probably since the couple years since we started doing this,
Yes.
there's a lot more. Sometimes I wonder if it's because I am seeking it, that I see it all the time. Our
Lens.
social media is curated by what we follow,
Yeah.
everything. So like I'm reading about these things all the time. But I don't know if everybody is. So there's still, I do feel like almost a responsibility to share my stories and keep talking so that I can spread that word.
Well, I think that is where each of us has a role to play. And I think it can be very empowering is that by having these conversations and sharing our personal stories, I think we elevate the conversation to where it is becoming part of the everyday ethos. Like, I mean, you're seeing it in the New York Times, you're seeing it in mainstream media outlet, not just on our social media or something which might only appeal to one demographic. It is becoming broad based, which I think is the most exciting part, because then there will start to be, I'm obviously very biased on the health side, but there'll start to be money put behind research into how in different treatments and medicines impact women, how the women's bodies are different and respond differently. So I think it's great. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I was talking to a group of gynecologists the other day, and they were talking about how hormone replacement therapy is not lead to breast cancer or the cancers as we ever had originally thought, but that there have been no new studies because there's no doctors just never want, or the health industry never wants to invest money in women's
No.
focus things. So, which is just sort of crazy when you consider every woman goes through menopause.
And we're 50% of the world's population. So
Right.
every woman at some point will go through this.
Yeah.
So it's not a like, oh, we should be surprised. Like, oh, menopause. I haven't thought about that one yet.
Right. So, has your idea or your feelings around how you define success shifted over your 50 years?
It definitely has. I am guilty of being very externally driven by title, brand, prestige uh, throughout my career, and it was something that I like intentionally wanted to think about, and I have spent a lot of time thinking about it over the last 3 years because I realized to find happiness going forward, and happiness may not be the right word. I think to have a meaningful life going forward, it really is more important than ever to define that for myself. It's not about a title, or I make a certain amount of money, or I know certain people. I think it's about what I can create and offer to the world. And that's not meant tritely, but it's like that. I do believe that that real sense of meaning can only come internally. It can't come from something which is externally given to you, because then you're always searching for more, because as soon as that goes away, you start to look for the next big thing, right? It becomes more about achievement and accomplishment rather than the process and the being in the moment.
So how do you manage that? Because, we don't shift over time. You could say, I'm going to.
No.
So, and I don't have the accolades, but in my mind, I'm an achiever as well. It's something that I work with my clients with too, is like how to stay connected to that intention. Do you have any tools?
A few, just based on my own experience. And by the way, I'm definitely a work in progress. I still have my moments where I'm like, oh, I really want that thing, or I want to be, or I'll read about someone else's accomplishments and think, oh, I'm not doing enough. And that's when I have to stop and say, stop. I actually have found, and not to jump on the meditation bandwagon, but I have found meditation extremely helpful, because what it allows me to do is to notice the feeling, but to see myself observing it rather than being that feeling. So whether it's envy or ambition, and ambition, I think I'm still ambitious in different ways, but towards that external reward in a way that society easily recognizes. So meditation for me and a mindfulness practice has been, it's been tremendous. I also find journaling, because if I journal and I'm writing about something, a feeling or a thought, in the finding of the right, correct words, it forces me to be really honest about how I'm thinking and feeling about something versus just glossing over it. And oftentimes when I do that, I'll realize that, like, that's great for this person, but for me, that really wouldn't be right because of X, Y, and Z. And I think the third thing I would offer up is that having a gratitude practice, a daily gratitude practice, is a reminder of all the ways of this beautiful life that I have worked. And I'm not saying everything goes well, but I'm just saying it reminds you of the good things in your life. And it helps me be much more present, and again, less reactive to the external.
So Holos you've been around for over a year, a little over a year.
Yeah, I think I'm
what are a couple of
issue.
How many?
75, I think.
Okay.
I think this week is 76.
What are your top 2 or 3 lessons from kind of starting this very different thing from what you've done before, coming from a different space of this wanting to contribute as meaning and instead of achievement, maybe?
I think the first is to not try to be all things to all people. Some of the best advice I was given, and it really is what keeps me, when I think I do my best work, is writing for myself. So issues that I would like to cover, the questions I would have, those are all basically I write for myself. And I think then that this person says that with the internet, you have this global audience, you will find your people, or your people will find you. And as long as I stay true to myself, I think that that's been a great guiding light. It's been an exercise in patience. It's very different to sit in my office and write versus being part of an organization and daily collaboration with people. I miss that piece, but it's also led me to meeting people like yourself and other women in the health and wellness field. And I love how open and friendly and eager everyone is to connect and be helpful. And I think that's something that's so different from my early experiences in investment banking, where it felt very cutthroat, particularly the women who did not help each other.
Right.
Now it's like the exact opposite. Everyone's like, how can I help you do what you're doing? It's not a zero-sum game. It's more about growing the pie for everybody.
Right. How do we come together and rise as opposed to cut each other down? I wonder if it's shifted for the younger women in investment banking or other industries now.
I don't know. I would love to know that. Maybe you and I and the rest of our, peers are just, maybe we got tired of all that and we're like, wait, we're each other's best resource. Maybe we can help each other out.
Well, what came to me too is like, how could we be of service to younger women?
Yes. I mean, imagine all these lessons, right? Of like wisdom that we've
Right. I mean,
gained.
it's so great that we sit here in our 50-year-old wisdom and we have all these
Yeah.
things and we share it with, I mean, I have 3 daughters and a son, and, we can share that with, them. But I think there's something that must be kind of brilliant and wonderful about, intergenerational, connection.
I agree. Well, don't they say like right now on some of the biggest people on TikTok are actually women our age, but their audiences are women in their 20s and 30s who are
Oh,
like
really?
seeing that like style and fashion continues. It doesn't just like fall off the,
Yeah.
28, you're not over, done with.
Yeah. Well, I'm not on TikTok, I have to say. I cannot add another social channel to my life.
It's probably the one I'm most interested in out of all of them, but I have not yet delved into it yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, do you have any words of wisdom for women, maybe like you, who have kind of, had the success, had the achievement, and are kind of feel like maybe I want to step off and do something a little different? What would you let them know or tell them?
I would say you're not too old.
Okay, yeah, that's a
Um,
good one.
I think embrace the fear, like lean into that uncomfortable. I think society sends us a message that we get to middle age and that we should have arrived, that like our lives should kind of be set and formed. You have the things that you like, you have your friends, you have your routines. And I think like keep pushing the boundaries. Don't embrace status quo. Continue to learn like and then grow. And I remind myself to, so I have an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old, and I remind myself that to be like them in mindset where they don't have any idea what they're going to do and they're totally fine with that.
Yeah.
In fact, they're excited by that. So I try to channel my inner 18 or 20-year-old where I'm like, oh, that whole life is ahead of me. It could be many, many things, and not to get wedded into one narrative.
Well, and it can be a completely, like, it can totally shift from where you've been, right? Like, and you can
Completely.
hold on to the things that you've had, but then it
Yeah.
also can just get so much bigger as well. That's what
Right. And I guess the last thing I would offer up is, and I think about this for myself, is a lot of the skills that I have developed over the years are transferable to many other things. Now,
Mm,
I would not be qualified to go become a rocket scientist. There are certain jobs where you need a certain hard knowledge, and I don't have that. But there's a lot of things that you can apply, whether it's resilience, persistence, writing ability, speaking ability, your ability to network. Those things you can take into different roles, and particularly if you're willing to take a step back and say like, okay, I'm ready to be a beginner again, and embrace all of that that comes with it.
yeah, those are some of the things that I have definitely in my reinventions over the past 10 years all leaned
Mm.
into. I was an English major in college and never knew how that would serve me, but it
Yeah.
really has, because no matter what job I've had, I've always been good at writing. So, it's just, and
Well, you have
then
a beautiful and your content is fantastic.
and our net, well, thank you. And that, again, circling back to the community and networking, I just think that is the most essential tip for any woman trying to do anything,
Mhm.
um, in midlife, is to build your community.
Yeah. And don't take those, inevitably you're going to hit some walls or some things are not going to work out. Don't take those personally and as a reflection of your lack of ability to make this pivot. It's just a stumbling block. They exist everywhere.
Yeah,
It's a pothole. Keep going.
so
Keep going.
inspiring. So what is next for you, do you think? Do you have any exciting things happening or anything you're excited about moving forward?
I don't know. When I started Holos, I didn't know where it would go. And I still, to this day, I'm not exactly sure what it will ultimately end up being. So I'm trying to take my own advice and enjoy the journey,
Mhm,
enjoy where it is taking me, opportunities like this to have this conversation and, spread the word that middle age is an exciting, awesome time.
mhm.
So I don't know where it's going to take me. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Karyn. It's
Well,
been
thank
so
you. I
wonderful to have
always love
you.
chatting.
Yes. And everybody go, Karyn, I will put the notes, but Holos, HOLOS.com, right? They can,
That's it, Holos50, HOLOS50.com.
yes,
We'd love to have you as a subscriber.
yes, exactly. And Karyn makes, I mean, it's all over the place, your content. I mean, it's consistent with health, wellness, but you've got things from how middle-aged teeth to drink the alcohol one, which killed me.
I know, me too. Very sad. Very
So
sad.
anyhow, it's very in-depth and well written. So you will enjoy getting it in your inbox each week. Thanks.
Thank
Karyn.
you. All right.
Bye.
Bye.